Welcome to another episode of Fraud Tracks. I'm your host, Kirk Barry. Today, I want to talk about a testing lab and their certificates of analysis and their laboratory information management system. So this particular laboratory is Gobi Hemp. Now, Gobi Hemp is a licensed laboratory in the state of Colorado, and they're ISO 17025 certified, and they've been carrying a certification from Perry Johnson Laboratories for, about 5 years. And I ran into one of their certificates of analysis not long ago when I was doing some fraud work. I found a Gobi Hemp COA on Cookies Hemp website, and that COA turned out to be altered, but it had a QR code on it. And when I scanned the QR code, I found a COA on Gobi Hemp's website. So I know that the COA that I pulled up from the QR code is at least authentic in and of itself. But let's talk about that for a moment, because I expect a particular level of integrity and rigor when it comes to certificates of analysis. These are official documents that are produced by a laboratory and presented to a customer and are used for compliance purposes, whether it's at the state level or the federal level. In this case, this is a hemp product. And so the information that I find on a certificate should be consistent with, or should fall in line with, ISO 17025 standards, and in this case, Perry Johnson's standards for PJLA certification. So let's jump right in. This product happens to be a concentrate, and the sample name is TST 189. No problem with that. Look at the top right corner of this particular COA. Test performed, hemp lab. No Gobi Hemp. The test that you performed is not hemp lab. A hemp lab is what you are. The test that you performed in this particular case is potency. So when you do your COAs and you're looking over the information, and you're the lab director or the CEO or whoever it is looking over this information, look for issues like this, and don't let things like this get by. That's sloppy. That's just sloppy work product. Now, let's go to the receive date and test date. Gobi Hemp says that they received this sample on February 17th, and they tested this sample on February 16th. And that's wrong, isn't it? You don't have a proper policy in effect, or you're not following your SOPs when it comes to chain of custody for a sample. You should never end up with a test date that occurs before you have a receive date on your document itself. And now, when I go down and I look at let's call it the results section, one thing I notice right away in the results section is, where are your limits of detection? Where are your limits of quantitation? They aren't on this particular form. And ISO 17005 says that they should be. Where is your measurement of uncertainty? It's not on this form either. And that's supposed to be on there. So when I look at the concentrates, when I look at the percentage results, I see none detected. And you say under your scope of work that the content of 16 cannabinoids was determined, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I look down the list and I count 16 cannabinoids. Look over on the right side of the form and it says laboratory comments. 9R HHC and 9S HHC. So those are hexahydrocannabinol. And it says that you say you found results here. You found results of 49.72% and 45.87%. What? That's very specific results down to the hundredths of a percent. So clearly you say you've tested for 9R and 9S, but you just put them down in the lab comment. If you're going to test for a cannabinoid, that should be in the cannabinoid testing section. And you have a conflict here. You say you tested for 16 cannabinoids, but actually the answer, according to you on your official certificate of analysis, is 18. Now, it may be that you don't have certification to test for 9-RHHC and 9-SHHC. I don't know. All I know is that it's under laboratory comments. At the bottom of the form, you say that only cannabinoids included in the table above are ISO 17025 accredited. So let me see if I understand this right. You're not accredited to test for 9-RHHC and 9-SHHC, but you're giving your customer results on an official certification that shows results down to the hundredths of a percent. I would say that's a conflict. I would think that if you're going to test for them, that you put that on the information. And if you're not accredited to test for something, then you don't put those on an official certification. Put them in a lab note and give them to them separately. Then the big one, or one of the big ones, is I have a date that you completed your work here, March 1st of 2022, but nobody at the laboratory bothered to sign the document. And on 7.8.2.1 subsection O of 17025, you are required to have a lab director or someone sign every certificate of analysis, just like LOD must be reported, LOQ must be reported, measurements of uncertainty must be reported. Now, on your website, you say that your motto is, we don't just follow standards, we set them. When I look at this particular COA, if this is a judge of your work product, and it is your work product, I would say that we don't follow standards, we change them. I think you guys can do better. And certainly consumers who end up going to see this information, most likely because hemp companies use certificates of analysis to certify the results on their labels to present them to customers. I think that we can work on our accuracy here, at least in this particular instance. And I've looked at other COAs that you have, Gobi Hemp, and I don't know. Another requirement on forms is that all of the customer name and the contact information must be included on a certificate of analysis. And you've got one company out there in particular that is your customer, and you don't put their contact information on the form. It looks to me like you treat them differently than you do other customers, like this one. This particular customer, Oregon Custom Supply in Grass Valley, Oregon. Here's an address. So that follows 17025, but you don't always follow the regulations there either, or ISO 17025 regulations. So listen, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and we'll see you next time.